Greetings. Thank you guys for tuning in for another video. Trust that you're glad to see me as I'm glad to see you. So there is a well-known principle. However, I do not think that it is popular in the sense that it is commonly practiced. It is actually contained within the New Testament of the Bible. It was directly espoused by Christ himself. And before we proceed, I know that most of you, at least those of you who keep up with this channel, know that this is not a religious channel. However, I do like to explain and share ideas that I think are universally true and applicable. And so, the ethic or principle, as hitherto explained, goes as follows. Love your enemies. Do good to them which hate you. Bless them which curse you. And pray for those who despitefully use you. This is a tremendously difficult thing to do in practice. In fact, it's probably one of the single most difficult things that we can ever do as individuals. However, like a lot of things in life which are tremendously difficult, this is one of those things that, if done, can have enormous benefits for not only ourselves, but also others. Now, before we proceed, I want to address a common misconception about this ethic or principle. And it is the conception or the opinion that this represents a weak response or mentality towards how to address evil and wrongdoing, especially that done towards oneself. So, speaking solely within the context of being a Christian, one of the central tenets of Christianity, or one of the things that Christ made very clear and apparent to those who sought to follow him, not only while he lived, but afterwards as well. It is the idea that we must suffer for his name's sake, that being a Christian entails that we, at some point, inevitably, will be persecuted or ostracized or chastised or yada yada yada. Like, we'll suffer for his name's sake. To be a Christian will come at some personal sacrifice or personal cost. And that's okay. That's no different than any other way of life. Every other way of life entails that we sacrifice something. That's kind of just a universal law of principle that, by doing one thing, you forego other things, right? That's not what I want to address, though. That's that. The idea that I'm trying to address, or combat rather, is the idea that this principle means that we should allow people to walk all over us, so to speak. Not necessarily. What this principle really embodies and what it really means is that responding to someone else who may have had ill intent or malicious intent, who may have had the desire to hurt and harm us, by responding to that, we do not have to, in turn, by necessity, desire to feel and do the same way that they did. Right? Like, because naturally we are inclined to retaliate when somebody hurts or harms us or abuses us. We are inclined to seek vengeance and revenge because it gives us some sort of sense of satisfaction. But many people, I'm sure, know that revenge is one of those things which initially seems like a good idea, but once you've obtained it, you find that it didn't really satisfy you. Even if it did satisfy you, it isn't a sound principle, and this is why. One of the things, I don't care who you are, where you come from, what you have, whatever. One of the things which is universally acknowledged about the human condition is that to live entails suffering, pain, and death. This is something that we all inevitably face in our lives. We all suffer pain and we all die. And this represents a sort of unending cycle. It is sort of innate to the human condition, right? We have a dilemma and a choice here. We can either indulge this cycle, participate in it, tolerate it, actively, intentionally perpetuate it, or we can defy it. We can stand against it and protest and say, no, I'm not going to have an active hand in doing evil, even when it is the norm. This is something that I think we're all called to do, not only as Christians, but we should be called to do as human beings. Because here's the thing: hurt people hurt people. And oftentimes, the reason that we want to inflict harm on someone else is because we have been harmed ourselves. And so, to break this cycle, at least within the context of our own personal life, to inspire others and lead them towards an ethic, a truth, a principle that breeds compassion, that breeds empathy and mercy and benevolence. In an effort to do this, it is important that we recognize that we ourselves can change and others can change. Even those who have done very terrible things, even those who have done irreparable harm to ourselves, it is good to not hold any ill will, any ill intent, any bitterness, any resentment, because these things can consume us. And if we allow them to consume us, then we actively choose to participate in this cycle of suffering, of pain, of death, because it only breeds its own, it breeds its own kind, and love will breed its own kind. But the thing is, love is more powerful than hate. Life is more powerful than death. Light is more powerful than darkness. And so, I am positing the idea that regardless of what your religious beliefs are, and I do encourage everyone, if you have an open mind, to earnestly and sincerely seek God and seek Christ, if you so choose. But whether you choose to or not, I think that everyone can get behind this principle, this rule of seeking to do good to others and embodying good and embodying love for its own sake. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. Once again, if you have any questions, comments, critiques, etc., I trust that you'll leave those down in the comment section below. Let me know what you thought about this video. Have you any personal experience that is related to this topic? If so, I would love to hear about it. All right. Bye-bye.